Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Bringing Value podcast. I'm joined again with Ricardo Acevedo.
Hey guys, just excited to be here again today and, being able to bring, additional value to our people.
So we're here at a different location, by the way.
Yes.
Could you tell us a little bit about this home that we're in?
Yes, we are in Alta Loma, Rancho Cucamonga, at a beautiful site, which is a property that Sandra has been working for the last year. She bought this property about a year ago, and she's finally hitting the market. It's a project that she's very proud of, that I'm very proud of. We did our transformational table here with my team earlier today. It was an awesome opcon, something that we do every single Friday in my office. Today we hosted it here. We came over to see Sandra's project to show her support and love and just to see, this beautiful place that she put together.
Yeah, and I want to say for those who are not able to see the video and only hear the audio, that this home is just spectacular, truly. And I'm looking forward to seeing the before and afters. And I think it's beautiful that I really want to make a little segment about this, but away from the main topic, is just I really liked how you made this event to really support your wife. You know, and how often we don't hear admiration, we don't hear a compliment coming not just from your significant other, but people outside of that, outside of the immediate family.
Right.
And for everyone to compliment her, to see her passion and what she did for this home.
Right.
I hope it feels good for her.
I hope it did, man. And I think it has.
Yeah.
Sandra wanted to expose it, to share, her commitment to this project. And she was proud about presenting her product. And I think that she did a phenomenal job.
Absolutely. Well, you know what? I think what I'll do is I'll put a link in the video to the house.
Yes, that would be
that
great.
Way they can see the home and really just also admire how great she did at this home.
Awesome.
But the main topic I want to go into is so for those who follow this podcast, we're all about bringing value and progress, self-development, and so forth. That's kind of the main idea. And one of the things that I've been very, very passionate about, and the key word here is vulnerability.
Yeah.
And I think especially as a man in society, but even women, I'm sure, can relate to this. And being vulnerable in the sense of being able to, speak your feelings, speak your mind, and to let all of that out, to expose yourself in a sense.
Sure.
Because I think what it does is it gives way to, and we're speaking in general here, but progress. It gives way to healing. It gives way to, which I think healing is such a big piece of the progress. Right. It gives clarity. Right. Because I think otherwise, if you have so much being held within you, you're muddled, you're messy. Right.
Yeah.
We talk about Tim, we talk about messy.
Yeah.
You can't have clarity if you're messy.
Yes, correct.
And you talked about John Maxwell. He talks about it in chapter 12, I believe you said, about vulnerability and change your world.
Yeah.
You're reading another book called, you said, what was it?
I can't remember the name. I just started it today.
Something Daring. I'll put in the link though.
Oh, Daring Greatly.
Daring Greatly.
I finished that one. Yeah.
Okay. That talks about.
Yeah. I thought you were saying the one I started today, but no, I finished Daring Greatly, and it talks about vulnerability as well. A lot.
Could you expand for me, maybe what personally vulnerability has done for you, and how you're practicing that right now?
What it comes down to, and we were sharing it earlier today, and it was something that came about on our table, on our transformational table. And it is a huge word when it comes down to transformation, growth.
Yes.
Without being vulnerable, there's no transformation.
No.
There's no change. There's no growth. So basically, for me, vulnerability is, and I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing it correctly.
No,
it's
you are.
It's a tough word to say, but it's basically leaving the ego on the side. Leaving basically the ego to say, I don't know this. I don't know how to do it.
Right.
I'm struggling with this. I need help. Can you help me?
Yes.
And that's what kind of our table is also. And I don't want to go into the subject of our transformational table, but that's where the true change happens, Seth, is it's being able to accept the fact that we need help, that we are struggling in an area of our life or in areas of our life. And then we're vulnerable to say, hey, I need help. Can you help me? I'm facing this situation. I'm having challenges with this.
Yes.
Can you help me? Because I think you have been through this situation before. Are you able to help me? Can you explain to me how you did it, how you dealt with it, and how you grew and learned from it? And I think that's one of the biggest things that we as men, and I think women also, is we have a hard time, man, being vulnerable, because sometimes we feel ashamed. We feel embarrassed. We feel, again, the ego gets on the way, and we're not willing to open up and ask for help and say, hey, man, I need help here.
Yeah.
I can't figure it out. But can we talk about it? Can you explain that to me?
I think as men, and again, I'm as a man, of course, and you're a man. Like I think we can relate. We're a lot of us, especially culturally, or even as a young age, we're raised to not show feelings,
Sure.
right? To be the stout man,
Yeah.
to protect our family, and we must not show emotion, right? We
Yes.
even if we're hurt, we can't show it because you would think it's gonna hurt your children because they're gonna see a weak man or
Yes.
to your significant other. And I kid you not, we talked about before. I think we were so wrong.
Yeah.
You know, and I say this because I watched this. Oh my God, this stunning video yesterday, actually, on YouTube.
Okay.
His name is Mr. Conway. I think John Conway was his name, but I'll double check. His son had committed suicide. A 14-year-old boy committed suicide,
Wow.
and now
Very
he
impactful.
very powerful, and he travels the world now teaching other fathers what he thinks he did wrong.
I see.
You know, that's, by the way, like that's such a massive thing to take ownership,
Right.
And because I think the majority of people will say, hey, it's not your fault,
Right.
and he talks saying, well, actually it is my fault, I was his father, and there's things that I could have done differently. And I think a lot of people can relate, especially us, because we're so driven. He's a very successful businessman, very successful.
Sure.
And so his son would, he'd be the son that come in, hey, let's talk, Dad, let's play together. He'd be like, oh, well, I'm on the phone 30 minutes from now.
Too busy.
Yes, too busy. And he gets very emotional about it. He goes, what if one of those times was the time where he wanted to speak to me saying, hey, this is how I'm feeling.
Right.
Right. And so when he's talking, lecturing these other fathers, he says, my mistake, this is where it all ties in, was not being vulnerable with my kids, especially my son.
Sure.
He talks about how often, or rather not often, do fathers sit down with their kids and say, these are the mistakes I made. This is how I was feeling. I was feeling sad during this time, and this is how I moved on from there.
Right.
Even at that moment, right, during that day. So not just talking about your past experiences, but talking about how you're feeling at that moment.
Correct.
Hey, son, this is how I'm feeling right now. Because think about it, as a child, not hearing how to express yourself and be vulnerable.
Sure.
At that young age, you absorb everything, right? And you have boys, so I'm sure you relate to a lot of this. What I'm saying. And I'm speaking from the perspective of what I heard from the YouTube, and I want to hear your input after this. But he talks about, if I had taught my children how to be vulnerable by leading by example, which means by him being vulnerable. Exactly. He says, I think I could have changed the outcome of what happened to my son.
Right.
And so again, he travels the world teaching this, because what he says is, my job is to let that never happen again, or at least rather, if I can help make that not happen again.
Correct. But see, the beautiful thing about it is that he was vulnerable enough to decide and go speak about it.
Yes.
And share it, right? Because he would have taken it as, hey, it just happened.
Yeah.
It wasn't my fault.
Yeah.
He took ownership of it. He became vulnerable and say, hey, I'm going to share this, because if I can help somebody avoid from that happening in their life, it's my responsibility to share it. We're becoming vulnerable, you and I.
Yes.
Getting on the microphone.
Yes.
Shooting this podcast.
Yes.
Because we're allowing our experiences and our situations that we go through life to now be able to share that and own our mistakes and own our experiences. So we're able to be vulnerable to share and allow ourselves to learn as we're sharing our feelings as well, to be able to grow and build off of that, based on our experiences and based on being vulnerable and able to not only say we're trying to figure things out, but at the same time sharing what we have experienced already.
I really want to depict, because I think when people hear vulnerable, they're not quite understanding what it could mean. So I think the best way, or rather a way to express it, is to define the opposite, the antonym of vulnerable. The antonym of vulnerable is invulnerable. So when you're invulnerable, you're hearing something that's immovable. You're hearing something that's untouchable. Okay? Like imagine throwing something at you. If you're invulnerable, it's just bouncing right off of you.
Right.
So if you imagine that, how can you expect yourself to absorb anything that's good?
Sure.
Right? Yes, being invulnerable to a bad environment is probably a good thing.
Sure.
Right? That means you're not absorbing any of the toxicity and the poison. But being invulnerable in a positive environment, right? To when someone's trying to teach you, or when you're trying to make progress, right? If you're invulnerable, whether that's through ego, whether that's through the way that you were taught because you're a man or a woman, you're not, you don't want to show emotion.
Sure.
You're not going to be able to absorb anything that's being taught to you, right? Or spoken into you.
Yeah.
So I think that's where you really want to understand what vulnerability is. Vulnerability is the ability to absorb, the ability to express and take in new things, right? Because you're not going to change otherwise, right?
Yeah.
Think about it.
It's being stuck. Being stuck to your old ways and to your own ways, and obviously not being able to want to change listen a different perspective, learn, and then grow
Correct.
with new information.
Because you said this all the time. It's like you can't expect to get new results by doing the same thing
Over and over again.
Right. Like I talked to my friend Pablo about it. I go, you can't expect it to taste differently if you have the same recipe and the same ingredients going into the stew.
It's always going to be the same.
Right. So I guess like one of the things I really want to push is if you're looking to change, which I think majority of people listening to this or anyone wants to make change, they want to be better.
Sure.
Who doesn't want to be better? Who wakes up and says, I don't want to be better today?
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
So if you have the intention of being better, I think what we're really pushing here is one of the key things is to be vulnerable. Because if you're not going to be, if you can't expect the change if you don't do that first step of vulnerability to open yourself up
and
to that
own
change.
and accept the areas and the things that have held you from getting to get to where you want to be in life.
Yes.
And that's a conversation I always have, not only with my team, which is, our office team, home, but is basically is one of those things is, hey, we have to be open and vulnerable to know that we're here where we're at and we're not where we want to be because we haven't been willing to listen or we haven't asked for help to be able to get the right guidance, the right information, the right books, be around the right environment, around the right mentorship, right around the right group that is going to help me, lift me, and help me change so that I can grow based on where I'm at, stuck in life.
I think one of the reasons most people are not vulnerable too, like you were saying, is they're scared, right? It's scary. Let's be honest.
It's shame.
There it is.
It is shame for people to know who you are, what you truly are, what your flaws are, and what deep inside of you behind the scenes, behind the screen, who you truly are, the challenges that you have, and sometimes who you present yourself to be, when in reality there's so much stuff behind you that you haven't been able to dispose of because you haven't been willing to be vulnerable, accept
and take ownership.
That you need help.
And I think you hit it right on the spot. Shame, right? It's heck, I mean, like I'm trembling now thinking about it. Like, how hard is it for even myself today to say, dang, Seth, you were wrong. And what you're doing is the wrong way to do things.
And see, we all have challenges with that, Seth. It's like peeling an onion, right? As you're removing coats. You're removing coats. As you become more vulnerable, you're starting to remove and peel that onion. Because you're trying to get to
the core.
To the core. You're removing those
peels.
peels, and you're unpeeling yourself from those things that are holding you from becoming that inner true you that you should be exposed, fully exposed, but free inside based off of your true internal core you.
I love that metaphor because if you try to change something from the outside, you're not going to get much results.
Absolutely not. It is until you start peeling it.
And so basically, like, and the answer, you're right, is like you have to get to the inside, the core, right? Because if you change the core, it'll radiate to everything else around you, right? So if you can think of like your essence, your soul as the core, once you're able to change that soul, that core, everything else you're radiating from your physical life, your mental life, your business life will see that change. It'll adapt to that change. But I like how you said that. You can't get to that core though until you peel that onion.
Yes, and how you do that is by starting to become vulnerable. And start obviously seeking for help, seeking to find obviously and opening up to those things that you have had challenge with. In our transformational table, and I keep going back to that. That's what we do, Seth. We're working on improving ourselves, on being vulnerable and saying, hey, I've been doing this for a year, or I've been doing this for 10 years, or I've been doing this for 7 years. And I'm not where I want to be or where I should have been. And what's holding me from getting there? Well, all these bad habits that have been generated along the way that haven't been removed because you haven't owned to it, you haven't accepted them, and you haven't come and asked for help and say, listen, I'm having these challenges and I think that I'm not where I should be because I have these things on my way that have been holding me back from getting there. But guys, I need help. How do I do it? Well, come closer. Come to our table. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about our values. Let's talk about the things that we work on a day-to-day basis, on our self-development, that eventually will start removing and unpeeling that onion so we're able to start working on that and start improving our lives based off of obviously being vulnerable and open to learn and grow.
I will say, because like I saw it on the transformation table, and I do this on a regular basis. Like you were saying, shame. I think a lot of people will not take that first step towards vulnerability for that fear of shame.
Right.
But I challenge anyone that listens, and you can probably agree with this too. Once you become vulnerable, it feels really good.
It's because you remove something that you're carrying.
Yeah.
It's like it's an unnecessary bag that you carry. So you start removing this weight off of you, and then you start feeling like, hey, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
And then you start becoming more light. You start becoming more free.
Yes.
And therefore you start becoming more whole.
Yes.
And more fulfilled.
Yes.
Because you unloaded this weight from you that you were carrying for so long. And then you realize, man, this feels different. I can actually be me.
Yes.
I can be open to share what I want to share and not have to feel the shame that I had, thinking that if I share something, then all of a sudden I'm not worthy of this or worthy of that.
And I think you'll realize you are worthy of it, right? Like you're gonna feel like I want everything that I deserve, rather our goals I deserve,
Sure.
right? Because again, you feel less weight. Like it's like if I ask you to run up a hill and you're carrying this huge heavy vest,
it's like removing that vest.
Correct. So it's like, Seth, I can't run up that hill. Like that's hard. I'm carrying all this weight on me.
Yeah.
And then I say, okay, well, take off all that weight. Can you run up the hill now? Of course I can. I deserve it. It's easy. And I think on top of that, I'll tell you this from my own personal experience, the moment I became vulnerable, and I'm very vulnerable now. I'm very open to just speak my mind and that's how I'm feeling.
That's amazing.
My relationships became better.
Yeah.
Right. My friendships became deeper. I started to be able to connect with people on a different level that I wasn't able to prior.
Yeah.
Even my friends now compliment me like, yeah, your friendship and my friendship became so much stronger when you started opening up.
Yeah.
Right. And again, like as a man, it's just, I grew up with, I must, be stoic, must be strong.
Sure.
I can't tell people I'm sad, even though I'm sad, because they held me at this level. Right. And if I felt like if I didn't uphold the appearance of being at that level, I was a failure.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it's surprisingly quite the opposite.
It's opening up, man. And I think there's different layers of vulnerability, right? From your challenges, from your feelings.
Yes.
And there's so many areas obviously of that. And I hear where you're coming from. What happens is, what I see happening to you is that your relationships are becoming more organically, in a sense, authentic, where you're being true yourself and them themselves, versus kind of sugarcoating, right?
Oh, I like that.
Sugarcoating what I am, when in reality, that's not the way I feel.
Yeah.
That's not the way I'm fully am. I'm just trying to pretend to be this guy and trying to pretend to be this guy, when in reality, I'm just trying to gain your attention.
Yes.
And I'm trying to have you accept me by pretending to be this guy.
Yes.
When in reality, I'm not. But I want to be this guy.
Yes.
But I need help along the way.
Yes. Powerful. I like that, because we hear the cliche all the time. Be yourself.
Yeah.
Be yourself.
Yeah.
And I think we just tied that in perfectly. The way to be yourself is to be vulnerable.
By becoming vulnerable. And it's a work in progress, Seth, because in my opinion, I have evolved. I have become more vulnerable, but there's so many more areas, man, that I need to work on. One of them is my feelings.
Yes.
I feel that it's a tough area
to
express.
It is
really hard, even with your loved ones, even with the people you care, the people around you. But see, that's the commitment for growth, man, is I wake up every single day committed to growth, because I want to be able to continue to unpeel, remove those layers that are still unnecessary in my life.
Yes.
And that's what keeps me every single day, man, committed to personal development, because I want to continue to peel those layers that are not necessary in my life, and that I need to remove them because I want to continue to become better. I want to continue to grow, and I want to continue to impact others, to help them on their journey and say, hey, it's okay.
Yes.
It's okay to do that. It's okay to share that, because that's the only way you're going to grow.
I agree 100%. And it's not just for yourself. You're a leader, right? And I think everyone is in a form a leader.
Yeah.
You lead a team of realtors.
Yes.
And you have a family. You have 10 children and a beautiful wife.
Yes.
But just because if they don't have, look at me, I don't have necessarily a full team. I have, 4 or 5 employees that work in America now. But in the same sense, even if I didn't have that, I'm still a leader within my family.
Of course.
Right?
A leader within your community.
Yes, exactly. So you get to understand, I think, what's resonating with me is, by doing this, I'm not just helping myself. I'm leading the example for everyone around me.
Yes.
So that
You're
one of you
changing your environment.
yes. And then, I like that. Exactly.
Yeah.
And like how you talked about before, being the thermostat of your environment.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, I think for anyone that's listening, if your environment is something that you're not unhappy, you're unhappy with, what you can do is you can change that environment
Right.
by you becoming the leader of that
A
environment.
catalyst.
Yes. Oh my God. It
Yes.
all ties in together, huh?
Yeah.
Well, listen, we're at 20 minutes. So I definitely want to leave any last remarks, something that's, powerful for the audience. Would you like to leave anything?
Well, it's one of those things, Seth. I've been blessed and fortunate to start my self-development process years ago.
Right.
I have grown a lot. I have learned so many things that have led me to want to grow more.
Yes.
Is that saying the more I know, the more I know I need to know.
Yes. Yes.
So the more I continue to feed myself on books and personal development, the more I want to continue to grow and learn more, because I continue to find how imperfect I am.
Yes.
And how I'm always going to be imperfect, but I want to continue to get better in living life. And,
Yes.
and I'm just committed to our personal development and to our people.
Yes.
As you said, I'm a leader.
Yeah.
And I'm a leader at home.
Yes.
I'm a leader in our office. I'm a leader in my industry.
Yes.
I'm a leader in my community.
Yes.
So I have a big commitment for my presentation towards other, and the way I obviously present myself and the way I conduct myself. Therefore, I have a big commitment to my family and all my surroundings. So I want to empower everybody to continue to stay tuned and stay connected and stay committed to the growth together.
Yes.
Because we're growing together.
Absolutely. And I want to add to that. It's very empowering when you accept the responsibility of being a leader.
Yes.
And I think because what it does is it keeps you, it's almost like accountability.
Yeah.
Right. And
it sure is accountability.
Yes. It keeps you pursuing that self-development.
Yes.
Not just for yourself, but because others depending on you.
Exactly.
So I would urge anyone, if you're fearful of becoming a leader, don't be.
Yeah.
Because it's the moment you taste it, which actually leads me to the next thing, you're going to want more of it.
Well, it takes one, so that person is able to now influence and make an impact on others. Remember,
yes,
there's others that are looking for it,
right?
And sometimes they're not getting it.
Yes,
and it might be you, that person,
absolutely,
that is going to end up making that change, that is going to ignite a change
in others,
in an environment, and basically a movement that originated from your change.
100%. And so the last thing I want to leave is, I like how you said like something like you continue wanting to self-develop.
Yeah.
And I think it's because we talked about this before. Once you taste something good, you want more of it.
Correct.
And so I urge anyone to try this vulnerability, try this self-development, because especially if it's a foreign idea to you, because once you taste it, you're going to want more of it.
Yes.
And you're going to realize I want nothing else. This is great. Right. It's like having your favorite food.
Understanding as you were going about life, and you were doing obviously life a certain way, and once you start understanding it, you realize, man, this is
the way to do it.
I should be doing.
Yeah, 100%. Awesome. Well, hey, powerful podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Till next time.